Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Cynthia. So in today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you guys how to make this beautiful nikka and kimono jacket. So if you're interested, let's get started. So the actual length of this nikka is 21 inches, but I added 2 inches for folding. So when you are doing yours, remember to add 2 inches for folding. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my crotch line. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use 10 inches for my client's crotch, which is 10 inches. So please remember, this 10 inches is not always constant. It all depends on your crotch measurement. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my hip line measurement. I usually get my hip line measurement by going up 3 inches above my crotch line. So when you are doing yours, go up 3 inches above your own crotch line. So this nikka is going to have an elastic band, so because of that reason, I'm going to use my hip measurement at my waist. So dividing my hip by 4, adding 1 inch for seam allowance, doing the same thing at my hip line, then marking my lines down to my crotch line. So at my crotch line, I am going to divide my round thigh by 2. So marking what I got and adding just 1 inch for seam allowance. Then at my hip line, I made my crotch curve. So dividing my round thigh by 2, this is going to serve, okay, when I divide it by 2, whatever I got, I am going to mark it out. So this, what I marked out, is going to serve as the midpoint, so as to enable me to determine how to get my round. So at that midpoint, I am going to divide my round knee by 4. Then I will impute what I got, starting from my midpoint, remember. Okay, so when I'm done, I'll mark my lines together. Okay, so just watch and see how I'm marking my lines. So I'm done marking my lines. So the next thing is to cut the front of my nikka. I'm cutting it now, so watch carefully and see how I'm cutting the front of my nikka. So please, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell, so you will always be notified each time I upload a new video. Okay, so I'm cutting the front. So when I'm done with the front, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the back of my nikka. Okay, so for the back, I'm coming up by 2 inches. Okay, so at the waistline, I'll come out by 2 inches as well, and I'll do the same thing at the hip line, coming out by 2 inches. So I'm connecting my lines as shown down to my crotch line. Okay, so at my crotch line, I'm going to come out by 2.5 inches. Okay, so you know the back is where the boot is located and is usually big, so you have to add enough allowance depending on your size. So at the knee, I also came out by 2 inches and I joined my lines as shown. So here I'm going to make a slant curve. It's not going to be straight, it's just going to be slanty as shown. So I'll cut the back of my nikka. Okay, so just watch carefully as I cut the back of my nikka. So the next thing I'm going to do when I'm done is to cut my pocket, because it's going to have a pocket. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying my video. Just subscribe, please. So for the pocket, I marked out 8.5 inches for the width of my pocket. Okay, so for the length, I marked out 11 inches for the length. So I'm cutting it out now. Okay, so I'm going to cut out another one. It's going to be 2. Please remember that the cutting, the pocket is on fold. Okay, all right, so I'm going to keep it aside. So I'm going to get the front of my nikka, then flip it over to the shaping side. Okay, then at my width I'm going to mark 2.5 inches. Then at the length I'm going to mark 7 inches. Okay, so when I'm done, I'm going to make a curve as shown. So I'm going to bring my pockets, making it the front facing each other. So just watch carefully as I place the pockets. Just watch carefully, please. So I'm going to place the pocket like this, making sure the fronts are facing each other. Sorry. So I'm placing it like this. So I'm going to cut it together with the nikka. Okay, I'm cutting it now. So when I'm done, I'm going to notch it. I'm notching it so that I will differentiate between the crotch and the pocket. The next one to cut is the kimono jacket. So for the length of my jacket, the length I'm using is 33 inches. Okay, so but please always remember to add your folding allowance. So I'm adding 2 inches for my folding allowance. Okay, so the next thing I did is to measure my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder is actually 16, dividing it by 2 and adding ½ inch. So for my armhole, I came down by 1 inch and I'm marking my armhole. So please, if you don't know how to mark out your armhole, please, I'm going to upload a video on how to do that. So please, if I upload the video, try and watch it so you'll be able to know how to do that. So when I'm done, I'm going to mark out my waistline measurement. So my waistline is 16. Okay, so from my waistline I marked out my hip line measurement, which I'm using 9 for my hip line measurement. Okay, so the next thing I did is to mark out my neckline width. So the width I'm using for my neckline is 3.5. Okay, so I've marked it out. So I'm going to extend my chest line like this. Okay, so when I'm done, I'm going to impute my body circumferences. So I'm dividing my bust by 4 and I'm adding 3 inches for seam allowance. I've already imputed the 3 inches and I'm marking what I got instantly. Okay, so the waist, I did the same thing, dividing it by 4 and adding 3 inches. I did the same at my hip line and I'm marking it, adding 3 inches as well. So that's 3 inch, that's measurement of my hip. I'm going to mark it down to the length of my jacket. Okay, so coming to my chest line, I am going to go in by 1/2 inch. Okay, so please watch carefully. I'm going in by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to connect my neck measurement to that 1/2 inch I came in at my chest line. Just watch. Okay, so at my waistline, I'm going to go up by 2 inches as well, and I'm going to connect the same thing I did at the chest line. Okay, so now I'm done with the front. I'm going to cut out the front so I can use the front to cut out the back of my jacket. For the back, I have folded my fabric into 2, and I have placed my front so that I can cut the back of my jacket. Okay, so I'm actually cutting it out now. Just watch as I cut it out. So I'm done cutting it out now. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to mark the neckline of my bag. So I'm also using 3.5 for the width and 1.5 for the length. Okay, so I'm marking as shown. So I'm cutting out my neckline. So when I'm done, I'm going to remove the bag and then cut out my front with my markings. So I'm going to cut the center like this. So I'm cutting it like this. Okay, so the front and the back of my jacket is ready. So for my sleeve, the length I used is 12 inches. Okay, so I'm marking out my 12 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my round sleeve. I divided my round sleeve and I added 3 inches. The sleeve is not a tight sleeve, it's a bit bogus, so I'm going to make a curve like this. I'm going to make a slanting like this. Okay, so I'm going to cut it out and cut out the second sleeve. Okay, so I'm cutting out the second. So please, I didn't add 2 inches for folding because the sleeve is going to have a different fabric as a band, a 2 inches band of a different fabric. So if you watch the video and the picture of that kimono jacket, you see that the sleeves and the front slide of that jacket has a different fabric. Okay, so for my sleeve curve, I came down by 2 inches and I made my curve and I cut. So in my next video, guys, I'm going to teach on the sewing tutorial of this nikka and kimono jacket. But before then, I want to show you guys how my client is rocking her nikka and kimono jacket. So thank you for watching my video. Please, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.